Pay close attention to this video. A man was fixing the plumbing in the sink when a woman arrives. He gets scared and says he would soon be finishing the job. She then asks the man if he was thirsty. He says yes and thanks the woman. The woman then hands the man a glass to fetch water. She then fills the glass with water and hands it to the man, who thanks the woman for her kindness. At that moment, the woman says that she needed to ask a man for a favor and he asks what it would be. She asks him if he has finished the job yet and he said yes and that he could help her. She says the bathroom sink was also having some problems and said she wanted the man's help so she could fix it. The man says he would soon finish work and go to the bathroom to help her. She said she'd be waiting for him in the bathroom and then leaves, letting the man finish the job he was doing. Later, the man goes to the bathroom and when he arrives, he is startled by the clothes the woman was wearing. He then asks her to cover up, but the woman tells him to stop it. The man says he didn't want to make trouble with the woman's husband and asks her to cover up, but the woman says her husband wasn't there. She says that her husband would take a long time to come back and that she needed his help with something else. He says he couldn't help her with that and asks her to cover up. The woman said she wanted his help, but just then, the woman's husband arrives and the man says he's happy to see him. Her husband asks her why she was dressed that way and she says she was waiting for the man to fix the plumbing in the bathroom. She said she was going to take a shower, but that she was waiting for the man to finish. The husband then said he needed to pay the man, but the man said it wasn't necessary and that the next time he came back to their house he would get the money. The husband thanks him, then says goodbye to the man who leaves. When the man leaves, the husband says that now that he has come home from work, he needs to take a shower, but the woman says that they were going to shower together. Sometime later, the woman was waiting for the man to pass by her. When the man walks past her, she goes to him and says she needs to talk to him, but he says he had nothing to talk to her about. She then says she wanted to know about the money, but the man says he didn't have any money. She then says that she would have to tell her husband what he had done to her. She said she wanted him to hand over the money to her, but he said he had no money and needed to go to work. She then lunges at him, but the man manages to dodge and leaves, leaving the woman furious with the situation. Later, the man arrives at the woman's husband's house and the husband tells her that he needed the man to fix the kitchen sink again. The man says he had fixed it the day before, but the husband says again the sink was defective. He asks the man if he had bought shoddy pieces and the man says that, unfortunately, the pieces he had bought were not of good quality. The husband then tells the man that he could do whatever it takes to fix the kitchen sink, that when he gets home, he will pay the man and then he leaves. The man then goes to the kitchen sink, but he realizes that the piece he had bought was no longer there and starts looking. At that moment, the woman enters the house and then goes to the man. He is surprised to see the woman and tells her that he needed to get back to work. She says that before he went back to work, she needed them to finish the conversation they had started earlier. The man is surprised by this and says that he had nothing to talk about with the woman, but she insists that she wanted them to finish what they had started, because she really wanted to be by his side. He then says that he didn't want to create any problems with her husband and says that he needed to leave to buy the pieces that her husband had ordered. Later, the man goes back to the woman's house with the purchased pieces and then says he was excited, because this time, he would fix the sink. At this point, the woman walks up to the man, then asks if he was going to finish repairing the sink at that moment. He says yes, then the woman says that after he finishes fixing the sink, she would be waiting for him in her room. The man gives up trying to reason with the woman and says that he would go to her room later so they could sort it out. This makes the woman very excited, and then she said she would be waiting for him and leaves. The man then repairs the kitchen sink, then after he's done, he grabs his tools and sneaks away. At this point, the woman arrives in the kitchen saying that she was going to get wine for them to drink, but she discovers that he is no longer there. Seeing here, he left, she is furious with the man. Later, the woman's husband comes home and calls out to her. The woman goes to her husband and asks him what he wanted with her. He then tells the woman that at his job he needed to travel for a week and that during that week he would be away a lot. This makes the woman very upset with him. She says that he had done it before that she didn't like, but the man said that he had nothing he could do. He said that, unfortunately, his company told him to go on a trip and he had to comply. The woman says that she understood that he had to obey the company's orders, but that he could try to stay at home with her more. He said he would try to do that, and asks her to understand his motives. The woman says that when her husband traveled by cutting time, she was afraid to be home alone, but her husband said she had been alone before nothing had happened. She then says she had an idea and asks her husband to ask the man to stay with her, but her husband says the man wouldn't want to. He said the man wouldn't like to do that, but the woman says all she was asking was for the man to come to her house to see if she was okay for the night. She said the man would not deny a request from her husband, as they were very good friends. The husband then says he would call his friend and ask for this favor. He then pulls out his phone and calls the man. The husband says that he would need to go on a work trip and asks if his friend could stay with his wife so that she would feel safe, but the man says that he could not do that as he needed to work. The man then says he has an idea that he would help him and says that the woman could stay at his house. The husband says it was a great idea, but the woman doesn't seem to be too excited about it. The husband then says that his wife was staying at his friend's house and then hangs up the phone, thanking her for her help. When the man hangs up the phone, the woman asks what happened and the husband tells her that the man told her she could stay at his house while he was traveling. The woman says that this was a great idea, because that way she could be safe. The husband then says that it was arranged and that now he needed to take a shower and then he leaves. Sometime later, the woman goes to the man's house and starts knocking on the door. She waits for the man to answer the door, but at that moment, another woman answers the door. The woman asks if this was the man's house and the other woman says yes, that he was her fiancé. The woman is surprised by this and then the other woman asks if she would like to come in. The woman says yes, so she enters the house. Later, the man's fiancée was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The woman notices this opportunity and so she goes to the man's room. The man was looking for some clothes in the wardrobe when the woman walks in and closes the door. The man is surprised to see that the woman was there. He asked her what she was doing there. She then says that the man's mother was too stupid and that she wouldn't realize what was happening. At that moment, the man's fiancée arrives and asks what they were doing. The man then says that the woman was just thanking him for his help. The woman then tells the man's fiancée that she was telling the man that she was missing her husband a lot and that she had asked the man to talk to her for a while. The man's fiancée then tells him that she was getting ready to travel and asks the woman to wait in the room. This surprises the woman and the man says that his fiancée was going on a trip. The woman then tells her that she would wait in the room and tells the man that she has not been able to talk to her husband and asks the man to call him. As she leaves, the man asks his fiancée if everything was okay for her trip, and she said yes. Later, the man's fiancée leaves and bids him farewell. He says goodbye to her, and when the woman realizes that the man's fiancée is already gone, he is very happy with the opportunity. She then closes the door of the house and sits down next to the man. She said she was very happy that they were alone in that house, but the man didn't seem to be excited about it. She then asks what was going on, since now neither her husband, nor the man's fiancée, was there to disturb them. The man then becomes uncomfortable with that situation and says that before they did what she wanted, he wanted to talk to her for a while. She asks him what he wanted to talk about, and the man said he wanted to know why she was doing it because she had an amazing man next to her. The woman then proceeds to tell the man that this was a very strange thing to say, since they were going to do something that her husband would not like. She then says that she had nothing to say about her husband and starts saying that she didn't like him anymore and that she was only by his side because he paid her bills. She said that she regretted marrying him very much, that he was a person who no longer gave her any pleasure. She says that the man was different from her husband and that she enjoyed being by his side. She says that she no longer liked to be by his side, that she felt no pleasure in being by her husband's side. She says that, unlike her husband, the man was very charming and that she liked to be by his side as he was actually very handsome. The man then asks the woman why she didn't say that to her husband, but she says she would never say that to him, as she needed him to give her money. She then starts trying to kiss the man, but she realizes that the man wasn't trying to make it happen. She then says that she was thinking that the man didn't like women, but the man starts laughing and tells her to look back. At that moment, she realizes that her husband was there and she is surprised. The woman's husband then says that she was thinking she would deceive him, but that wasn't going to happen. At that moment, the man's fiancée appears and tells the woman that she was mistaken in thinking that her husband would cheat on her. The woman then proceeds to tell her husband that this was all a misunderstanding. She then says that she had thought he was traveling and asked why he had come back early. The husband then points to the man, says that this was his best friend and that he was like a brother to him and that she would never make him betray her trust as they were good friends and that would never change. He tells her that it would never happen, that he didn't want her to go back to his house anymore. The woman seems to be very surprised by this, and then the husband tells her to leave and never come back. He asks if they would still want her to stay in their house, but the man and his fiancée say no. The man's fiancée says she wanted the woman to leave and never come back. The woman seems to be really surprised by all this, and then the husband tells her to leave before he leaves aside the good mood he was in. When the woman leaves, the man spooks his friend that they had finally gotten rid of that gold digger and that now everything would be fine for them and hugs his friend.